The air in the solicitor's office was thick with the scent of old leather and recent rain, a sterile, unforgiving atmosphere perfectly matching the mood of the meeting. I was 22, freshly graduated with a degree in computer science I'd paid for with 3 grueling part-time jobs, and holding the business plan for Nexus, the mobile productivity platform I believed would change everything. The meeting wasn't about funding. It was about the small, legally tricky inheritance, a portfolio of volatile stocks left by my maternal grandmother that I had planned to use as the seed capital for Nexus. It wasn't much, maybe $80,000, but it was my 80,000. My grandmother, bless her wise, rebellious soul, had left the portfolio specifically to me, stating in her will that it was for the dreamer, not the keeper. I looked across the mahogany table at my elder sister, Mira, who was already a successful, if conventional, corporate lawyer at 30, and my parents, who had flown in for the occasion. They looked less like a supportive family unit and more like a hostile boardroom. "Anya, be realistic," Mira started, folding her manicured hands over the documents. Her tone was sharp, slicing through my enthusiasm. "A productivity platform. That's not a business, it's a pipe dream. We need to be sensible here." My father cleared his throat, adjusting his tie. "Your mother and I need to retire next year, darling. We've been looking at that villa in Tuscany. It's perfect. It only requires a small down payment, and your 80,000 would cover the mortgage interest for the first 2 years, easily." My stomach tightened. "Dad, that money is for Nexus. It's not for Tuscany. I've worked 3 years on this pitch. I can turn that 80,000 into 8 million within 5 years. Nexus is going to be huge." Mira laughed, a brittle, dismissive sound that always felt like being pelted with gravel. 8 million. Anya, you're still talking like you're in a university pitch competition. This isn't some garage startup fantasy. This is real money, and frankly, you've never demonstrated the kind of stability or focus required to handle it. You're too emotional, too caught up in grand narratives. I tried to argue, my voice shaking with frustration. I reminded them of my perfect GPA, the award I'd won for the Nexus prototype, the sleepless nights I'd put in. My mother, usually my softest critic, simply looked away. "Your sister is right, Anya. She's responsible. She handles money well. Look at her career. She's offering to handle this investment for us, make sure it's put to good use." That's when Attorney Thompson, a skeletal man with thick glasses, interrupted, finally getting to the crux of the matter. "The will states that the portfolio is irrevocably willed to Ms. Anya Sharma. However, there is a codicil. If the family unit unanimously agrees that the allocation of the funds would serve a greater, immediate family good, and Ms. Anya Sharma is unable to present a viable, profit-driven plan within 90 days, a family trust can be established under Ms. Mira Sharma's direction." I opened my mouth to protest, but Mira delivered the killing blow, a line that years later, when I was signing multi-million-dollar deals, still echoed in the coldest chambers of my memory. "She doesn't deserve a penny, Mr. Thompson," Mira stated, her voice icy and firm, looking me dead in the eye. "She doesn't deserve the principal, let alone the potential interest. That money needs to go towards something real, something tangible. Not another one of Anya's little academic fantasies. I vote yes, establish the trust, and allocate the funds for our parents' security." My mother finally met my gaze, a flicker of guilt, quickly masked by practiced financial prudence. "We agree, sweetheart. It's for the best." My father nodded emphatically, already mentally packing for Florence. The 3 of them had formed a flawless, impenetrable wall. They had used the legal loophole, but the true poison was the absolute, total dismissal of my talent, my hard work, and my ambition. They saw me not as a daughter or sister, but as a flighty, unstable liability whose assets were better managed by the adults. They didn't just take the money. They stripped me of my foundational validation. They took the Nexus seed, and in doing so, they planted something else deep inside me, a cold, unyielding need to prove them catastrophically wrong. I stood up, pushing my chair back sharply. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. The shock was too great, replaced instantly by a clear, diamond-hard resolve. "You've made your decision. I said, my voice unnervingly quiet. Enjoy Tuscany. And enjoy the wedding, Mira. I hope that 80,000 buys you a very, very long honeymoon. I left the office, walking out into the rain-slicked city streets. That day, Anya Sharma, the emotional dreamer, died. Anya Sharma, the calculating architect of vengeance, was born. And my first decree was simple. I wouldn't just be successful. I would reach such a height of power and financial might that the air they breathed would literally be under my contractual control. The next few years were a blur of absolute, fanatical dedication. I slept 4 hours a night on a pull-out couch in the back of a co-working space, fueled by cheap coffee and the memory of Myra's smirk. I didn't talk to my family. I ignored their occasional, patronizing emails asking if I had found a nice, stable job. They were dust motes to me now, irrelevant except as the target for my ascent. I didn't try to resurrect Nexus. $80,000 was gone, but the knowledge wasn't. Instead, I pivoted. I took the concept of hyper-efficient data management and applied it to enterprise logistics. I called the new company Apex Dynamics. The idea was simple, yet revolutionary. A system that used predictive AI to optimize global supply chains in real time, eliminating the kind of inventory waste that cost Fortune 500 companies billions. I found a seed investor who didn't care about my family history, only my ruthless focus and the genius of the code. You have the eyes of a killer, Anya, he told me once. That's what I invest in. I just smiled. He had no idea who my target was. The growth of Apex Dynamics was exponential. We hit a $100 million valuation within 3 years. By year 5, we were a unicorn, a billion-dollar entity. I, Anya Sharma, was 30 years old and the founder and CEO of a global tech phenomenon. I had replaced emotion with logic, ambition with obsession, and vulnerability with impenetrable steel. My quantifiable success became my shield and my weapon. I bought assets that spoke a language my family could not ignore, the language of absolute, indisputable value. My crown jewel was the acquisition of the entire top floor of the Millennium Tower in downtown Manhattan. Not just an apartment, the entire space. It cost $12 million and was the most ostentatious, beautifully sterile space I could find. It wasn't a home, it was a monument to my victory. It had wall-to-ceiling glass on all 4 sides, offering a 360-degree view of the city, and from that height, everyone below looked small, distant, and insignificant, precisely where I wanted my family to be. I found myself attending endless galas, sitting on panels, and being interviewed in glossy magazines. In one profile, the journalist asked about my motivation. "What drives you, Miss Sharma?" I replied without hesitation, looking directly into the camera lens, though my message was only for 3 people. The pursuit of undeniable validation. When you're told you are fundamentally incapable, sometimes the only way to silence that doubt is to build something so loud and so successful that their voices are drowned out entirely. I achieved all this success, yet I felt nothing but a cool, deep satisfaction, like ice water on a scorching day. I was rich, powerful, and utterly alone, by choice. My independence was absolute, but the joy was still tethered to the pain of the original slight. The revenge was incomplete until the target acknowledged the depth of their mistake, and that required them to experience ruin. The opportunity came not in a flash of lightning, but in the slow, agonizing grind of the real estate market. My father and Mira, riding high on the security of my grandmother's $80,000 and some shrewd, but ultimately shallow, investments Mira had made, had pooled their money with my mother to purchase an investment property in Brooklyn called the Apex Building. The irony of the name was not lost on me. It was a beautiful, mixed-use commercial and residential block, a tangible, solid asset, everything they had accused my software dreams of not being. But Mira had over-leveraged it. The commercial tenants, largely dependent on old retail models, were failing and the massive debt payments were coming due. The Tuscany villa had long been sold to cover an earlier shortfall. The Apex Building was their last, most significant asset, the physical embodiment of their supposed financial prudence. And it was sinking fast. I heard the news through my corporate intelligence team, who flagged the property when they were performing due diligence on potential new headquarters. We needed a large, strategically located office complex to consolidate our new acquisitions. The Apex building was perfect. The meeting request came via a nervous, third-party intermediary, a former colleague of Myra's. The subject line was chillingly formal: confidential consultation regarding Apex building financial restructuring. I accepted the meeting, but not at the Apex Dynamics offices. I chose a private, soundproof conference room in the Millennium Tower penthouse, the one I had paid $12 million for. They needed to see the monument to the pipe dream. Mira and my father arrived 20 minutes late, pale and drawn. Mira, usually so impeccably tailored, wore a suit that looked slightly frayed, her face showing lines of stress I had never seen before. My father looked 10 years older, the light gone from his eyes. My mother was not present. She claimed to be unwell, but I knew she simply couldn't face me. They sat across from me, the full panorama of Manhattan glittering behind my head like a billion-carat halo. I wore a simple black dress, tailored to perfection, and a single, heavy diamond ring. I said nothing. I let the silence hang, heavy and suffocating, for a full minute. "Anya," my father started, his voice a dry rasp. "You look incredible. We are so proud of what you've accomplished." The words felt like ash. "Let's dispense with the pleasantries, father. You are here on business. Specifically, you are here because the holding company for the Apex building is facing insolvency, and the debt is being called in 2 weeks. You need a white knight. You need capital infusion. You need Apex Dynamics." Mira swallowed hard, her lawyer's composure finally cracking. "We do, Anya. We desperately do. We've exhausted every option. Your company, your capital reserves are the only thing that can save us. If we lose the Apex building, we lose everything. Our house is leveraged against it. Please, Anya, as your sister, I am begging you. We just need a short-term, secured loan. We can put up additional collateral." I held up a hand, stopping her mid-sentence.
"No."
They stared at me dumbfounded. "There will be no loan," I continued, my voice measured and steady, devoid of heat or malice. This was business. I am not in the business of bailouts. I am in the business of strategic acquisitions. And the Apex building is a highly strategic location for my new headquarters. I pushed a stack of documents across the table. They were clean, white, and legally devastating. "This is an offer," I explained. "Apex Dynamics will acquire 100% of the holding company's debt, effectively taking over the Apex building immediately. We will assume the liability, restructure the commercial leases, and ensure the residential tenants are secure. In exchange, you will sign over the company's equity, walking away with a zero balance, no debt, but no profit." My father picked up the document, his hand trembling. "Zero? Anya, we put everything into this. We were hoping for a return." I finished for him. "An exit strategy? I understand. But you see, my investment strategy has one and only one core principle: never invest in projects where the management fundamentally doubts the viability of the asset. And 7 years ago, you all collectively, unanimously, voted that my most viable, most promising asset was worthless, that I was worthless. Now, I am simply applying that same stringent philosophy to your venture." Myra's eyes welled up, and she finally shattered. "Anya, I was wrong. I was so arrogant and so wrong. I was jealous of your genius, and I needed the money for my wedding. I convinced myself you were a child. I ruined your start. I regret that more than anything." I leaned forward, my face betraying nothing. This was the moment I had lived for, the confession I had engineered. "When you told Mr. Thompson that I didn't deserve a penny," I said, my voice low, "you weren't just taking my $80,000. You were taking my self-worth. You were confirming every insecurity I had about being the dreamer in a family of doers. I swore that day I would build something so real and so tangible that you would one day be forced to kneel before it. This penthouse is real. Apex Dynamics is real. And this contract, Mira, is very, very real. I tapped the paper. You have 30 minutes to sign or the debt defaults and you lose everything anyway. Only this time, you'll be dragged through bankruptcy court. This offer is my vengeance, executed through the clean, cold mathematics of corporate takeover. It secures my new headquarters, and it secures your immediate, debt-free oblivion. My father looked at the floor, defeated. Mira looked at the contract, then back at me, tears streaming down her face. There was no defiance left, only recognition of the colossal scale of her miscalculation. She picked up the pen and signed. My father followed suit, his signature a shaky imitation of his old, confident hand. It was over. I had won. I had the penthouse, the company, the revenge, and now the building. The satisfaction, however, was as fleeting as a single clap of thunder. I had achieved the most total, devastating revenge imaginable, and the result was emptiness. I stood in my new, massive corporate headquarters, the now renamed Apex Dynamics Global HQ, and felt the chilling isolation of pure, untainted victory. My independence was secured, but the cost had been 7 years of humanity. It was around this time I finally allowed myself to see Liam. Liam Chun, my chief strategy officer, had been with me almost from the beginning. He was the only person who had ever challenged my methods without questioning my capabilities. He didn't care about the $12 million penthouse. He cared about the elegance of my code and the depth of my strategic thinking. He saw the cold exterior, but he had patiently chipped away at the foundation, looking for the warmth underneath. One evening, weeks after the acquisition, he found me staring out over the city. "You're building the biggest empire in the world, Anya," he said quietly, leaning against the glass. "But you only ever build walls around yourself." "The walls are necessary, Liam," I replied, still focused on the lights below. "They keep the enemy out." "Are they?" he countered gently. "Or do they keep you locked inside? The revenge is done. Your family is safe, solvent, but humbled. You proved your point, but you didn't prove your happiness. That's an entirely different equation." His words struck a nerve. Liam wasn't just non-transactional. He was a mirror, reflecting the self-imprisonment I had never acknowledged. I started letting him in, slowly, tentatively. We talked about things other than valuations and acquisitions, childhood dreams, fears, and the complex, messy business of human connection. Through Liam, I began to realize that true power wasn't in crushing your enemies. It was in the freedom to choose not to. 2 months later, I was having dinner in a small, cozy Italian place, a place Liam had insisted on because it had real food, not just presentation. The air was warm, smelling of garlic and basil, a world away from the sterile glass box of the penthouse. Then I saw them. My parents and Mira, standing hesitantly by the entrance. They looked nervous, searching the room, and when they saw me, they approached my table slowly. Liam looked up, instantly sensing the tension, and put his hand lightly over mine. My father spoke first, clutching a small, worn envelope. "Anya, we didn't mean to intrude. We needed to see you in a place that wasn't an office." Mira looked directly at Liam, then back at me, taking a deep breath. "We wanted to say something, but not under duress. Not when we needed something. We just needed to say we are truly sorry. Not sorry we lost the building, but sorry we lost you. Sorry we told you that lie about your worth." My mother stepped forward, her eyes red. She placed the envelope on the table. "This is a bank draft for $80,000. It's the full amount we took, plus interest, what we could scrape together from selling the last of our retirement savings. We don't want anything. We just want you to know we acknowledge the debt, the financial one, and the personal one." I looked at the envelope. $80,000. It was a rounding error in my current financial statement, less than I paid for a single piece of art in the Apex HQ lobby. But the gesture, 7 years too late and extracted through total ruin, was finally sincere. I picked up the envelope and pushed it back toward my mother. "Keep it, Mom. Use it. It's too late to matter to me, and perhaps it can still matter to you." Tears streamed down her face. "You forgive us?" I looked at all three of them: the broken CEO, the defeated patriarch, and the tearful mother. The coldness I had carried for so long finally began to thaw, replaced not by love, but by a quiet, profound pity, and then, simply, peace. "I accept your apology," I said, my voice clear and without reservation. "I accept that you were scared and arrogant, and that you made a colossal mistake. But you need to understand something important. The revenge, the takeover, the success, the penthouse, it didn't happen because of that $80,000. It happened because you gave me a gift. You broke me down so completely that I had to rebuild myself entirely on my own terms. You handed me the ultimate source of power, absolute independence." I squeezed Liam's hand, meeting his warm gaze. "I am Anya Sharma, founder and CEO of Apex Dynamics. I built this entirely from the ground up, with no help, and now, no resentment. I don't need your validation, and I don't need your money. You can come back into my life, not because I need you, but because I am finally independent enough to choose to forgive you." My sister wept openly. My father simply nodded, understanding the weight of my final judgment. I was free, and my freedom was earned by the very thing they had tried to prevent. I told them to sit down. We didn't talk about business or buildings. We talked about the trivial things people who haven't spoken in years talk about. Liam watched, a gentle smile on his face. The revenge was complete, and the resolution was even better. The successful Anya Sharma was no longer defined by the wound, but by the colossal, self-made strength that had healed it. I was finally, truly happy. The penthouse was a monument to success, but this small, noisy table, with the scent of basil and the hand of a good man in mine, was the true foundation of my new life.